Later that evening, after a long day of meetings and presentations, Eva decided to unwind at the hotel bar. She needed something to calm her nerves, to relax after the exhausting day. The bar was dimly lit, with only a few guests scattered around. The sound of jazz music filled the air, adding to the intimate atmosphere. Eva ordered a whiskey and settled into a comfortable seat by the window, gazing out at the darkening sky. The quiet of the place felt like a balm to her tired mind, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to simply breathe. And then, she saw him again. He was sitting in a corner booth, his eyes scanning a book, but there was something about the way he carried himself that made Eva's heart skip a beat. The same man from the lobby, Aiden. Her pulse quickened as she watched him. He seemed so absorbed in his book, yet Eva couldn't shake the feeling that he was aware of her presence. She was drawn to him, but she hesitated, unsure of what to say or whether she should approach him at all. Aiden, sensing her uncertainty, glanced up from his book, and their eyes met. For a moment, it was as if time had slowed, the world around them fading into the background. He stood up effortlessly and made his way over to her table, his movements smooth and purposeful. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice as warm and rich as it had been before. Eva's heart fluttered in her chest. She had no idea what to say or how to respond. All she could manage was a smile as she gestured to the empty seat across from her. "Not at all," she replied, her voice a little breathless. He sat down, his gaze never leaving hers. The conversation began easily, flowing as though they had known each other for years. They talked about everything: her work, his passion for architecture, the places they had both traveled to. Yet beneath the casual conversation, there was a palpable tension, an unspoken connection that neither of them could ignore. As the hours passed, the bar began to empty, and the soft strains of jazz continued to play in the background. Aiden's eyes softened as he leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a low whisper. "You know, Eva," he said, his words almost lost in the gentle hum of the music, "I can't help but feel like this encounter was more than just a coincidence." Eva's breath caught in her chest, her heart racing. She looked at him, and in his gaze, she saw something familiar, something she couldn't place but had always longed for. She wasn't sure how to respond, but she found herself speaking without thinking. "I don't believe in coincidences," she said softly. Aiden's smile deepened, and he reached for her hand across the table, his touch gentle but firm. "Then what do you believe in?" Eva felt the weight of his words settle deep within her. What did she believe in? She had spent so many years working, focusing on goals, on outcomes. But right now, in this moment, all she could feel was the electricity between them, the raw connection that neither of them could explain. "I believe," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "that some moments are meant to be." Aiden's eyes darkened, his gaze intense. He leaned in, his lips brushing just a breath away from hers. "Then let's make this moment ours." The kiss lingered, soft and deliberate, like two souls rediscovering each other after a lifetime apart. It was as if the entire world had momentarily ceased to exist, leaving just the two of them in that suspended moment. Eva's pulse raced, her hands trembling slightly as they rested against the cool surface of the table. She had kissed men before, quick, passionate encounters that had never left much of an impression. But this was different. It was more than just a physical connection. It was an understanding, an unspoken promise that neither of them had expected to find. Certainly not here, not in this quiet hotel on the edge of nowhere. When they pulled away, both were breathless. Eva blinked, her mind racing to catch up with what had just happened. She had always been the type to keep her emotions in check, to guard her heart with walls built high. But now, in Aiden's presence, those walls seemed to crumble with each passing second. Aiden's eyes were intense, a storm of emotions flickering behind them. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time, but also as though he had known her forever. It was an expression of wonder, of recognition, and something else, a deep understanding, as if they had shared some invisible bond that went beyond their brief conversation. "Is this real?" Eva's voice was barely a whisper, as though speaking too loudly might shatter the delicate magic that had enveloped them. Aiden didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took her hand, his grip strong yet gentle. He studied her for a moment, as though deciding how best to put into words what neither of them could fully comprehend. His thumb brushed lightly across her knuckles, sending a ripple of warmth through her veins. The connection was undeniable. It was more than just a fleeting attraction. It was as if fate had led them here, to this precise moment, for a reason neither of them could yet understand. "I think it is," he finally said, his voice low and steady, with an edge of certainty that surprised Eva. "What we have, it's not something that happens every day, Eva. It's more than coincidence." Eva's heart skipped a beat at his words. She could feel it too, the undeniable pull between them. It was like a magnetic force that had been drawing them together ever since their first meeting. But how could she explain it? How could she possibly articulate what she was feeling when she hadn't even begun to understand it herself? "I've never felt anything like this before," Eva confessed, her voice barely audible above the soft music playing in the background. "I don't even know you, but it feels like I do." Aiden nodded, as though he understood exactly what she meant. His hand tightened around hers, a comforting gesture that made her feel grounded in the whirlwind of emotions swirling around them. "Maybe we don't need to know everything right now," he said. "Maybe sometimes it's enough to just let things unfold, to trust that we're exactly where we're supposed to be." Eva looked at him, her mind a flurry of thoughts. She had spent years building a life that was carefully constructed around logic, stability, and control. She was a planner, someone who knew exactly what her next move would be. And yet, here she was, sitting in a quiet hotel bar with a man she barely knew, experiencing a rush of emotions that defied all reason. But there was something about Aiden that made her feel as if she didn't have to have all the answers. It was as if, in his presence, she could let go of the constant need to control everything, to overthink every decision. With him, it was okay to just be. Aiden's gaze softened as he leaned in closer, his breath warm against her ear. "I know this might sound crazy," he murmured, "but I don't want this night to end." Eva's heart swelled at his words, and for the first time in a long time, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, some things were meant to be. She had come to Silverwood Hotel for a business conference, expecting nothing more than a few days of work and routine. Yet here she was, tangled in a connection with a man who felt like a perfect stranger, and yet also someone she had known for a lifetime. "I don't want it to end either," Eva whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She looked into his eyes, seeing not just the man in front of her, but something deeper, a kindred spirit, someone whose presence resonated with her in a way she couldn't quite explain. For a moment, there was nothing but silence between them, a comfortable silence that allowed them both to process the enormity of the situation. Eva had always been cautious when it came to matters of the heart, but in this moment, she realized that there was nothing wrong with taking a leap of faith. She didn't need to know where this connection would lead. All that mattered was that it was real, and it was happening now. Aiden broke the silence first, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you want to get out of here? We don't have to go anywhere fancy, just somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can talk." Eva didn't hesitate. She nodded, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "Yes, I'd like that." They stood up together, hand in hand, as if they had made a silent agreement to explore what lay ahead. As they left the bar, the soft hum of the hotel's nighttime energy surrounded them, but it felt distant, irrelevant. The world outside, with all its noise and distractions, felt far away now. The only thing that mattered was the path they were about to walk together, two strangers who had found something inexplicable in each other. They left the hotel bar and wandered through the dimly lit hallways of Silverwood Hotel. As they reached the door of a quiet lounge tucked away on the second floor, Aiden paused. He turned to face Eva, his expression serious yet filled with something she couldn't quite place. "I don't know where this will lead, Eva," he said softly, "but I know that I want to find out." Eva smiled, her heart full, as she met his gaze. "Me too," she whispered. "Me too." And in that moment, the uncertain path ahead didn't seem so daunting. They had found something in each other, something precious, something real. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. As they entered the lounge, Eva felt the weight of the world lift from her shoulders. This was their moment, one they would never forget. Eva had escaped the noisy streets of New York in search of peace, embarking on a journey to Silverwood Hotel. The hustle of city life, where every minute was scheduled and every move calculated, was left behind as she sought solace in the countryside. The hotel, nestled on the outskirts of a quaint town, stood as a historical relic with its blend of old-world charm and modern elegance. As soon as she entered, Eva felt as though she had stepped into another world. The marble columns, the golden chandeliers, and the soft glow of the light created an atmosphere that was both grand and inviting. Everything was perfect, yet unlike many other luxury hotels, this one had a sense of warmth, as if it were a place where history and comfort intertwined. Eva had come for a short business trip, attending a conference that would last only a few days. However, even in this serene setting, she couldn't shake the unease that lingered within her. Her busy career, the weight of long hours, and the constant pressure to perform were always on her mind. Still, something about the peacefulness of the hotel made her feel like she was entering another realm, one where she might find answers to the questions she hadn't yet asked. As she approached the reception desk to check in, a figure caught her eye. A man stood near the desk, speaking softly to the receptionist. He was tall, his dark hair tousled, and his sharp features, his defined jawline and piercing blue eyes, immediately drew her attention. He had an almost magnetic presence, like a storm approaching, something unpredictable and captivating. Eva felt her pulse quicken as she waited for the receptionist to finish. The man seemed to sense her gaze, and his eyes flicked over to hers. A smile played on his lips, one that was both enigmatic and distant, as if he knew something she didn't. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, and Eva felt a strange connection, something she couldn't quite place. "Excuse me," she said, her voice almost a whisper as she waited for the receptionist to acknowledge her. The man turned toward her, his smile widening just slightly. "I think you're next," he said, his voice low and smooth, like the soothing tones of a jazz melody. Eva blinked, startled by the smoothness of his voice, but she managed a small smile and nodded. "Thank you," she replied, trying to steady her nerves, but he didn't walk away. Instead, he stayed nearby, as if he were content to remain just at the edge of her personal space. Eva focused on the receptionist, but her thoughts kept drifting to the stranger who seemed to be studying her without saying a word. "Your room is on the top floor, Miss Evans," the receptionist said, handing her a key card. "Enjoy your stay." Eva nodded absently, taking the key card. As she turned to leave, she couldn't help but feel the stranger's eyes on her again. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words escaped her. Just before she left, he spoke again. "You're here for the conference, right?" he asked, his voice cutting through the silence. Eva glanced back, surprised by the question. "Yes," she replied, offering a small, polite smile. "It's my first time here." "First time in Silverwood or first time at a conference?" he asked, his smile growing wider. Eva laughed softly, the tension in her chest easing. "Both, actually. I work remotely most of the time, so this is all new to me." The man paused for a moment, as if considering her words. Then he spoke again, his tone thoughtful. "Well, I think you'll find Silverwood to be a memorable experience." With that, he pushed off the desk and walked toward the elevator, leaving Eva standing there, her mind spinning. She felt an odd pull toward him, something she couldn't explain. What had just happened? And why did she feel like she needed to see him again?